At the same time, we do know that the world is facing two crises at the same time. First, we have the energy crisis, the supply chain crisis, and apart from that, we're still facing the most disruptive pandemic of modern history. So how do you think the economy, in terms of global economy and also India, can survive during this pandemic?
You mentioned about energy crisis. To my understanding, the energy crisis resulted from lack of transportation of the raw material, primarily coal and gas. It is a major challenge, of course, but at the same time, as a result of the COP26, there has been an increasing awareness that dependence on the traditional fuel for energy production will have to be reduced. That, in my opinion, is going to prove positive in fighting the pandemic as well, because the other sources of energy will also make people realize that the past cannot continue, past practices cannot continue. The kind of lifestyle that one wants to have is restrictive in terms of usage of resources, and I have a feeling that people will like to fight this pandemic, taking care of the new realities in the world, particularly in terms of energy consumption.
But what are the strategies? Because we know that the world is moving towards a clean energy, a green energy. So what are India's strategies to move towards that?
Solar energy and renewable energy sources are at the base of our strategy. As you perhaps know, India is one of the co-founders of International Solar Alliance. It started, I think, 2 years ago along with the French assistance, and now we have nearly 98 countries which are signatory to the International Solar Alliance, ISA, and on the 10th of December, I think it was also recognized by the United Nations, making it more acceptable to the countries all around the globe. Similarly, we have a target to achieve in terms of, as I earlier mentioned, nearly 450 gigawatts using non-conventional energy sources. This strategy is only going to strengthen in the coming years as the technologies improve and new ways to generate cheaper and cleaner energy are realized.
And Mr. Bharti, one of the challenges that also Indonesia face is the retirement of the power plants that we currently use, because it's not cheap, it will cost a lot. So is India facing the same problem or the same challenge?
We have the same challenge. Because we are also dependent on coal power for a lot of our energy requirements. So we have those challenges, but I would say that we are still about 20 to 25 years from retiring our old coal plants for energy requirement, and we will be doing it in consonance with generation of other energy sources, alternative energy sources. There will be challenges, but we are sure we will be able to handle them effectively.
Moving on to the trade between Indonesia and also India, how has it been so far?
India-Indonesia trade, very few people realize, is a very substantive high. At the peak we had a bilateral trade of nearly $20 billion in 2019. But I can give you the latest figures. According to the latest figures released 2 days ago, between January and October this year, total bilateral trade was nearly $17 billion. And out of that, Indonesia's export to India was nearly $10.7 billion. As per these statistics, Indonesia enjoys a surplus of nearly $4.75 billion over India. So our trade is quite substantive, but we have set a target. We had set up a target of reaching $50 billion by 2025 before the pandemic. So, as a result of the pandemic, I am sure this figure will be very difficult to achieve, but you can imagine that our target has been pretty high. We have been consistently moving towards increasing our bilateral trade, also because it requires some of the policy changes, some changes in regulations, some changes in non-tariff barriers and things like that. But the trade is mostly limited to couple of big items. For example, from Indonesia we have a huge import of palm oil, and similarly coal is imported from Indonesia in a substantive manner. India is the largest importer of palm oil from Indonesia, and that makes it a very potent trade dynamics in terms of bilateral trade. Largest import from India, I would say, are pharmaceuticals, chemicals, and then comes agricultural products and things like this. Once again highlight that there are a number of areas for Indian companies' interest in Indonesia, and I will put some of them as prime targets, including pharmaceutical sector.